It's time for your next favorite episode of the Integratedness Podcast with Jason and Jolene.
It's a new year, new you, new episode of
Scooby-Doo!
Ruh-roh. Welcome to 2025, bitches.
Yeah.
Wow, that year went quick.
It kind of did.
It did. And like we were even talking before we went on, it was like not up until literally like the last 2 weeks of the year did I have any idea what 2025 would even mean or be for me. Which we've talked about, like just feeling like a little bit uninspired.
Yes.
And just like not knowing what was coming next and not wanting to sort of plan too early, which is why we record these like right at the end of the year.
Yeah. I wasn't ready to transition yet. And I kept wondering why, because I felt like last year I had way more clarity early on because we recorded that episode a bit. Oh, no, we did
the
it.
Christmas one.
Yeah, we did it during the drunken Christmas thing. We were sober for that part of it, though. But anyways, yeah, no, I very much was like, but as you're talking right now, Mercury was in retrograde, our planet of communication.
Right.
That one dominates this space a lot. It was retrograde until about mid-December, like I think the 18th it went forward. So then you have a shadow period. So really, we don't want to be moving anything forward during that time because that's like when the bottom of the lake gets churned up and we're sifting between things and trying to get clarity. That's not when I'm planning 2025. That's when I'm fully wrapping up 2024 and all the stuff that's staying behind. So now that I'm saying that out loud, it makes sense why we, especially for this space, we're not inspired to do this episode until now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
see, isn't that wild? I hope that people go back and listen to those astrology episodes because it is fascinating how much I go back and draw on what's happening. Like when I personally feel like I wanted to have a topic. I wanted to be able to get this out of the way so we didn't have to worry about it over Christmas break, but I couldn't. And when that happens to me, I'm like, what is outside of me that's influencing this? In that case, it would have been that, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because my own intention and like when I need to get shit done, I get it done. Usually if there's resistance, it's because something else is kind of blocking the road, right?
Big time.
Not yet. Yeah. Okay, so
2025. So what's your
First of all, let's talk about 2025. And I would love to get some insights from Brittany. So as this launches, she will be probably posting a lot of stuff on her page about what 2025 means.
Yes.
And what's dominating over this year and what kind of bigger events are happening. But I always look at the numerology of it. Essentially, 2, 2, and 5 is 9. And in the numbers world, 9 means endings.
Okay.
So we are almost at a brand new kind of decade cycle or at multiple different points in our life where we wrapping things up in order to move forward. So there can be endings to things that are holding us back. There can be endings as transition points. There can be things that we are moving from one chapter to the next. Like endings don't always mean like, that's it, I quit my job or I leave my relationship, right?
Yeah, it's not always bad.
No, what needs to end in order for you to move forward? Maybe that's bad patterning or different behaviors. Maybe it's limiting beliefs. Like we could look at a lot of different things, but there's typically closure on stuff. Maybe the planning phase is ending and the action phase is starting.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, totally. So I always like to look at that as a bit of a guiding force. For yourself, you've been inspired longer than I have, so I want to hear what's been boiling up for you, Jay.
Well, no, what's interesting is I had certain things lined up for this year, which was a big project, another book documentary project,
Cool.
which was going to take the bulk of the year. But due to things that were going on in the production company end, it's been pushed back to 2026.
Ooh.
Which means what I had planned for this year
is no
gone.
longer.
It is gone.
This is when like a plan bigger than yours comes in.
Well, and it's like I had already decided I'm not adding more to what I'm doing. I'm just going to get better at what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like I have one documentary I'm working on this year that'll come out towards the end of the year already. So focus on that. Finish the book because now I have more time to finish the book and do it even better.
Yeah.
But other than that, and work on this show and then this other new podcast that my buddy Kenton and I launched in February called Echoes of Fear. But like that's it. So remember, I can't remember if we talked about this like on the Christmas special because I already forgot. Or we talked about it on one of the live.
Maybe.
But where I wanted what I wanted for 2024 was more stillness.
And
now
like
that's
a balance
coming.
of it. Yeah.
And now it's come.
Yeah.
So I'm not fighting with it. I'm not going to try to add more or fill space or anything like that. I'm just going to get better at the things I do professionally and, like personally as well. and then just take more time, like do more outdoorsy stuff like kayaking and hiking and things like that, and just focus more on that aspect.
And I wonder actually where that's going to open things up with Griffin and Jess for you too, because
exactly.
you have never directly made that a goal of yours, because again, I think when we look at productivity and worth and the things that we place goals and like really stick to, I think from a value standpoint, you've always valued, how you manage family life and work life. But I don't know if you've been able to prioritize it the way you've wanted to, or whether it's just like nicely settled in where it settles in.
Yeah, I think it more just everything settled in where they settled in.
Yeah,
right?
And now you can actually go above and beyond that.
Yeah, and just see what that leads to.
Yeah. I love that. I have a question actually that's just coming to mind we've never talked about. Is Griffin ever interested in like the things you do? Like would he ever go out with you and Pete and Ollie and do a house investigation, or go to O'Keefe? Like, is he, or go to the like book selling things you go to? Like, oh, Dad, I'll run the booth with you.
He hasn't, but I think because he's been young, right? Like he's 13. So I wonder if he's always been interested in that stuff, but it's also scary because you're a kid, right?
Yeah.
So as he gets older, he might.
Has he ever, have you invited him? Like, hey, I'm going to...
No, I haven't. Because because of his anxiety.
Right.
Because some of the stuff that happens is really
paranormal
unpredictable.
stuff, yes. But what about like when you go to your book fairs? I don't want to call them book fairs. What the heck?
Literary conventions?
Thank you. That's a sophisticated way to say book fair.
Right?
Yeah, like, hey, buddy, I'm going out of town for this thing. Do you want to come on a road trip?
I never have, because his anxiety, he didn't like road trips.
Okay.
Right? And so I'm curious now, to go, say, to something like a Monster Fest now that he's older, would he want to? And I said I'd be more inclined to invite him now. And even Jess. I didn't do it before because of financial reasons, and he's too young, or there was school going on. But now it's like, I think it would be something that would be fun to do. Like there is one project I've got coming up, which is now even delayed a little bit more because of the delay of the one.
Yeah.
Is going to involve a trip to do research in Newfoundland.
Whoa.
But now I would be like, do you guys want to come?
Yeah.
Because that would be nice to go for a week, and then we could do family stuff, and then I could also do my research and filming. And they could just hang out at the hotel or do their own thing.
Totally. That would be really cool. And you can write the whole thing off, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. Because, I mean, everyone's kind of at that stage. And I think typically we kind of protect our work life too, because that's our own balance of stuff.
It is, yeah.
But I could see him being interested in the business aspect of it, seeing his dad in that authoritarian role and seeing you kind of do your thing. And he could learn the nature of the business. And there might be other people there that he's interested in, like, oh, what does this person do? He can sell the books. Like, kids love playing cash register.
Oh, God, do they ever,
right? So, like, you could put him in charge of, like, hey, it's like, here's how you set the table up. This is how you complete a purchase. Things like that, about like teaching the business, because you talk so highly about how your dad helped you build.
Yep.
Right? And it's like he might not be interested in the content or the writing, but what is it about running the business and doing that end of things, right? And like Jess is such a, like, is she pretty people-y in terms of, no? I was going to say, like,
people.
she could sit at the table and like chat it up with people.
She would go and look at all the other books.
Cool, yeah.
Right? Which would be fun that way, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know with Griffin, when I ran a YouTube channel, like he loved telling people my dad runs a YouTube channel. Like he just thought that was the coolest thing. So he'd even be, I think eventually, as he got older and got more technically adept, he'd probably even want to film. Like I could probably give him a camera and say, "No, this is what I want you to shoot," and he'd shoot it.
Totally, and then you can use that as all your marketing material,
exactly, right?
Like, yeah, he would have fun, and he could put together reels. Like, you could put him in charge of social media management.
Which I would love, because I hate just managing social media. So.
And then if he's on social media, he sees it as purpose rather than pleasure. Because you and I go on there for work a lot, not necessarily pleasure.
Very rarely pleasure.
Yeah, people see me with an online presence, but I remind them, like, I don't look at your stories. I'm simply much of it is a one-way street of, like, here's what I'm throwing out
and
there.
I'm the same. I put it out, and then I turn it off, and I walk away.
Because I don't like getting stuck in the hole. Like, I can really get stuck, and it'll just like eat up time that I don't have. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I just think that's really cool. So that is where this might end up freeing up space for that stuff. Hey, who knows?
So it's funny what you kind of like. Because the reason why I've desired sort of more stillness and peace. I talked with Alicia about this in my last session. Is this like I've done over the years of like 10 years of crime reporting and 5 years in employment and all that, and just in life, like a lot of what I'd call like battles, and I'm tired of battles, and I just want to have calm for a while, right?
Yeah.
And so I wanted that going into 2024, and then everything just blew up professionally. But it was
flow
supposed
and go,
to happen.
right?
Exactly.
When go hit, you went.
I went with it, and there's nothing to say that something couldn't come up this year out of left field. That's just something I can't say no to.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff left over from this past year that was supposed to happen that didn't. And so
Yeah.
those things could kind of drop at any time.
Yeah,
But
and I think you have space. You'll
And I
have
have space
space
for
and
it.
capacity to say yes to the unexpected. And they could be short-term things. They could
Yeah.
be like a fun invite for a weekend somewhere to be a guest speaker or
Yeah.
things like that. Like I think maybe it's a networking year for you to just be available, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's about availability. Yeah.
maybe, and then when I'm not
Cool.
available, I just do my own thing and spend
Yeah.
more time with family and friends.
I
which
like
we'll see.
that. Yeah.
So what?
Available to thy neighbor.
Yeah, that neighbor. What's up,
That's
neighbor?
cool.
So what about you?
Yeah, so me. So this is how I go through this process of deduction. I really kind of anchor into like what have the last few years been. And I like even couldn't remember what I had for quite a few years. There was one piece was like one of the first ones I anchored into at the like this last 5-year kind of journey. And then I think I had connection, and I was wondering, have I chosen alignment? And I don't remember. This year was immersion, and it was funny because I have really mixed feelings about how that turned out. Like I think I became immersed in lots of different things, and even into some of the, just I was going for depth. I wanted deeper, a lot of different things. So I think it's worked out that way, but I don't know if immersion is the word that I would still link with it, but everything that I intended out of it really took me there, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, like I just hit deeper into a lot of different things, including like, been pretty open about like Kevin helping me hit bucket list things. And, we're getting engaged. So that's like deeper into the goal of what the two of us are getting. I moved privately into like my own solo led practice now. No paying other people more
Right?
than I
Thank
need to,
God.
right?
Yeah.
And those things, like that's kind of immersion further into my dream in a sense, right? But I remember feeling like, I was like, I didn't mean drowning immersion, right? Like I remember periods where I was like, fuck, I got to clarify that better.
Someone tossed me the life preserver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember when 1 year, surrender was one. I wanted trust and I wanted surrender. And I went through this process of deduction of how I would choose between the two. And I was like, I can have trust, but I can still lack surrender. But I can't have surrender without having trust.
Yeah.
So I went with surrender. Then I'd have both.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah, because you can't. You can fully trust someone, but or
And
something,
choose not to surrender.
and choose not to surrender to.
Yeah,
it.
I can trust that the universe has a plan for me, but still choose not to surrender.
Yeah.
I can't surrender without trusting.
No, exactly.
Right? So I like the double whammy. So this year, what I'm torn between is greatness, because I felt this burst of inspiration this last week, finally. I've been sitting in this place of limbo, and I felt this like breakthrough of, okay, some expansion here, especially around new workshop creation. And I've been sitting on that for years, waiting for the space to do that, right? So looking at like pretty much greatness everywhere in various different like places and spaces, and just expanding. I wanted to say expansion, so that was my first, but I was like, I don't want my fucking waistline to expand anymore. And my body will always like cellularly, like it will embody everything I want. And I'm like, I don't want that kind of expansion. Like I'll take bigger boobs, but I don't want a bigger waistline, right? So I was like, fuck, I can't choose that one. Like, no joke, guys. This is a serious thing. I can't choose expansion. So I was like, greatness. Greatness is a better one in a sense there. But I also really want harmony.
Okay.
And harmony in the sense of things being in balance. But I really know that even when there's change and different things, everything that I'm doing and moving forward, I want there to be harmony. So when things are moving forward in work, I still want harmony in my home life. And when things are moving forward in my home life, I still want harmony at work, because those two tug of war a lot.
Yep.
I want harmony in my relationship, and that includes in both ends of our families, right? So I really think between harmony and greatness, I'm doing the same thing I did with trust and surrender.
Okay.
So I can have greatness. I can have a lot of greatness, but I can lack harmony.
Yes, you can.
Right?
Because you can.
Just think of big famous people who let her rip.
Oh, geez.
Right?
Yeah. All of them at some point get
Yeah.
the greatness without the harmony.
Yeah. So, and I think I've had that before. I think I've had a lot of greatness in my life, and my home life wasn't in harmony or whatever, right? So I think if I go for harmony, then everything in my life is foundationally prepared for any kind of greatness I expand into.
Yeah, I think so. Because you've got the piece, kind of like what I'm thinking of, the piece to accommodate what is coming.
Totally.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between peace that I had many years ago. That was a different, like, peace from the chaos, and peace in my decisions, and peace in my confidence moving forward, and just the peace I needed in my life at the time of my separation. Now the harmony I want is everything I'm trying to integrate, everything I'm trying to merge into my life just looking at the harmony there. So I think that's what it's going to be.
I like that.
Harmony.
I like that.
But that's how my head went there, guys. And I explained that to you because Jason talked about his process and how he looked at last year and next year and where he settled himself into this year. For myself, I looked at that last 5-year process, but then I looked at what some of my 2 biggest desirable ones were, and I'm picking the one that I'm going to maximize with the most because I can still get greatness in that place of harmony, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is my goal of it, is that so I can, really expand into all of that. So I want you guys to think about, what are the things you're looking for? Is this, I do a recap with everyone in the end of 2024. And it was so crazy because my clients in my collective tend to have very similar healing journeys in terms of like many people are at the same sort of places. And I think that's just the energetic alignment of the work that I do. And that's like who's coming to me in those times, right?
Yep.
A lot of people, this was the year they chose themselves. So I inventoried January to December and we looked at the January version of them and then all the highlights from the year, good and bad, the things that happened. And really everything for like 75% of the people I was working with that I did this, it was like, this was the year of choosing me. And because I chose me here, I chose me here, I chose me here. It was like what things had to go, but what things gained.
Yeah.
It was really neat. So that was something, I don't know if that really speaks to you guys. What did you do? And then for a lot of people, it was like the year prior was their preparation year. And this year was their action year. Like 2024 was their action year. Yeah. Right? So that was really neat. They actually got to see it all pan out.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. And it's, you kind I know people focus, I can't speak today. People focus always, we've talked about this before on like the resolution. Mm-hmm. But when you think of resolutions, they're more like goals in a way, right? They're external things you want to achieve in a way. Or they're like, I need to be more fit or something. But few people choose like themselves, not in the selfish way, but like what kind of person do you want to be? Mm-hmm. And I think that's something we need to do more. Like being physically fit doesn't make you a better person. It won't improve your life. It'll make you healthier and maybe stronger and faster. But what are you doing? Like, what kind of human being do you want to be?
There. So I choose to be fit because I want to be better balanced, better health for my family, be able to do a better job at the things I do or show up better in the things that I do,
exactly.
Right? A lot of times when people are investing in their health, it is for themselves, but also it's showing the people that they love, I intend to be here longer for you.
Well, big time,
right?
and which is an important thing. And I think if you're, say, like if you're in a family, I know with myself, one of the things that motivates me to be physically fit is to show my kid that not to be this lazy sloth eating shit food and just sitting in front of the television all day. Yeah. Like get out and be active. Yeah. And he is far more active than a lot of his friends.
I look at some people who are in their late 60s, early 70s, and they are physically unable to do plenty of things. And I'm like, if I'm running after grandkids at that point, I want to move. Like my mom's pretty mobile and did she just turn 70 this last year? Yeah. And I look at some people who are like mid 60s and they are not moving. They're not bringing their grocery bags.
Nope.
In. They're not like...
They're using those scooters. At 60, they're using scooters to get around.
So every time I think about being in Pilates and I think about getting my steps in and I think about, joint stuff or gut health, I am looking at longevity of my life. Like I've been following a lot of stuff on social media and I'm like, I am doing this for my 80-year-old self because I'm at a stage in my life where I start to lose a lot of muscle mass based on hormonal processes and stuff. And that is something when I gained awareness of that, I was like, oh my God, that can slip away like crazy.
It goes really quick.
And for me, I'm always torn between this place around my weight. And if I lose muscle, the scale shows less. But I don't want that.
You want the muscle,
but it's desirable.
It's
desirable to see the scale go less, right?
Yeah.
But and that's like a piece that I constantly challenge myself on and have to remind myself, no. I want the muscle, and that might mean the scale's higher.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Which I didn't realize that when I started boxing. Like I lost a bunch of weight, and then I thought I was gaining it back. Yeah. It's like, no, it was muscle mass I was putting on.
Yep. So there's pieces like that, but I very much invest in my future self. And every time we make these goals around like, yeah, how do I want to feel? What is the kind of person I want to be this year? And who's going to benefit from that as a result, right? You know, if we look at all of the people in our lives that we can benefit from, like if my doctor chose to make intentions around the beginning of the year for them to be better in this, and this, and this, then when I need them for such and such, I'm going to benefit from that. You know, for me, it's like the more I can benefit myself and the health in my life, the better my clients are going to benefit and like whatever, right? So always looking at, you know, if we have a hard time doing it for ourselves, how does that roll out to other people, right?
Big time.
Yeah. And again, reminders from, you know, the previous couple of years, we've talked about this, not focusing as much on resolution as we are on intention. And like we anchor into these core desired states. So, you know, like I said about immersion, you know, I don't know if that was the right word, but how I'm feeling and the things that happened is what I intended on. You know, that is what I was going deeper into and wanting to go further into. And I like to have some small achievable goals because that's my dopamine hit and that keeps me on track. So financially, you know, I even had goals around how many books I expected myself to read because I have to push for those ones. That's not a natural thing.
And it's an important thing, reading.
And it is important, right? It's for my brain health. I constantly like learning, but it also is forced downtime because I like to read fiction instead of fact because I can read as many educational books as possible, but that's not what I need for balance.
Well, no.
Because I'm always information seeking, right?
And if you track your heart rate, when I read, my resting heart, especially fiction, my resting heart rate is at a sleep level.
Wow.
So I'm regenerating while I'm sitting
almost
reading
like
for
a
an
meditation.
hour.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something I force myself to do for pleasure because I don't watch TV, right? So entertainment for me needed to come in some form like that.
Yep.
And then looking at like, some specific actual achievable goals. I go through my day timer. So I make my vision board my day timer and I tape all my images on there. I do an oracle reading that guides me for the year. I write down all those tangible things and then I go every few months with a different colored pen and I check things off. How close am I here? You know, I talked about this when we talked about nutrition or whatever. And I think I finally anchored into my nutrition goal in like September. And I was bummed it happened so late in the year, but it did. And at least it did, right? Mm-hmm. So I got back on my healthy eating plans and I've committed to that since with a couple of waivers, but for the most part, really stuck with that commitment to myself again. So looking at that, I'm also going to be running a workshop in a couple of weeks that helps guide everybody else on that too. So I was really, I've always offered that to people as kind of an invite only and usually the workplaces that I'm in, but I'm going to open that up to my clients or any of you guys if you are interested. But yeah, it helps to really touch your goals every day. It helps you to remind you of them. And images are really powerful of creating a feeling. Like each page of my day timer has a different feeling. The back side has a different feeling than the front side. And, you know?
Yeah, which is good, especially if you are more like, we're all visual people anyways. But if that's something that helps you stick to what you need, then it's well worth it, right?
Yep, I like touching it. You know, I had a picture of Mickey Mouse on the back and we went to Disneyland this year. Like every time you see these things, you're like when I put that on there, I didn't know we were going, but I knew it was on my list at some point, right?
And then it happened.
Yep, totally. So yeah, it was really neat. It's neat to do that. And then anybody I check in with who's done them with me before, halfway through the year, I'm like, how are you doing? What's happening? And they're like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe how many things I've like checked off so far.
But that's awesome, right?
It's so cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
So how about all y'all out there? What's your intention for the new year? What are some things you hope to achieve personally? What improvements do you want to make? So let us know in the comments and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And look at it from a very holistic perspective. Financially, we always have to look at finances. We talked about that at the end of last year, like the role finances play in our life. Financially, where you want to be, or resource-wise, where you want to be, health-wise, extracurricular, social-wise, career-wise, family-wise, mental health and emotion-centered, spiritual. Think about each of those areas, jot down a couple of priorities in them, and then zoom out and go, what does all of that look like and feel like?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I'm really close to that right now. So this is about maintenance maybe, or this is about continuation of it, or I'm so fucking far away from that, I don't even know how I'm going to hit it. then maybe your word is pivot.
Yeah, pivot.
Right?
And look at the baby steps to get there.
And then the other thing I do is throughout the year, any decision or event that's happening for me, I ask myself, does this move me closer or farther away from pivoting? Does this move me closer or farther away from harmony?
Yeah.
And there's things that are going to push us farther away, but we have to make that commitment that if we move far away enough times, we really have to like refocus and bring it back to what the core desired state is.
And I think it's important to do that. It's kind of like, I know when I first started counseling, it was a matter, I had to pick my 10 core values.
Yeah.
Which it was funny. And it was done strictly on instinct. Like that's what I was told. Just don't think about it. Just look at the list and then just go with what your gut tells you. And it was funny. Other than the first 3, the other 7 were stuff I'd never considered and had completely operated against. Like most of my life. And so I think it's important to do something like, and you can find these things online. You can do it that way. Don't do one that was charging you money though, because it's just a ripoff scam. But that's something even for the year to do. If you're kind of like unsure what you're looking for or even what you want or even who you really feel you need to be, do that.
Yeah, totally. Actually, one of the cool things you might be interested in is we've talked about this one in the first season, but it's 16personalities.com and it's the Myers-Briggs. And it's a really quick little ABCD kind of checklist. And then I just love the way that site describes all the personality
types. It's pretty bang on
right?
too, yeah.
Yeah, and super bang on. I actually just had one of my male clients come back to me after he's moved out of town for a while. And he was like, Joe, he's like, I did this test. And I was like, we did that test 2 fucking years ago, man.
But he did it again, which is
I
great.
love that he did it again and totally identified with it. And he's at such a different place in his life right now. So I love that. Even if you've done it before, go back and revisit it because there might be something in there that's helping to guide you or reignite the part of you that's been hidden for a little bit. Like sometimes when we go through things that can really suppress us a bit, we forget some of those really amazing qualities we had.
Yeah.
Because maybe we were in the wrong job that was just like bashing us all the time or feeling unproductive or this or that. We forget like, oh yeah, these are what my strengths were. This is what I bring with me. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So it's good to revisit these things.
Yeah, 16personalities.com.
Cool.
All right.
Well, and also please, if you don't feel comfortable leaving a public comment, hit us up personally, because I got a message today, actually, from one of our listeners who listened to the money episode.
Yeah.
And it really hit him in a way that he realizes he needs to take action on. And he said it pointed out every mistake he's made for years. But now he feels empowered to actually do something about it. So let us know that way. If you're not comfortable, do that. Hit us up in a DM or whatever.
I love that. And I would say, Jay, that is typically the feedback I get. It's all private. Not a ton of it is public. And most of the time, people seek me out to tell me how much they love listening.
Which is great.
I love that, guys. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And I love that we're still like so small that people feel like they can come directly to us.
Yeah, and
right?
well, we don't have anyone else they can come to. So, because we're not that big.
But still, like sometimes people don't want to DM on Instagram and things like that because they're like, oh, people aren't going to read it. It's going to end up in their junk. No, we are like,
we listen.
We are the front face of that page and stuff, right?
Yeah, so, and I think most people who are genuine about this are willing to take that moment well. Like I left a comment on one of the few YouTubers I actually watch is Bjorn Andres Bull Hansen. Mm-hmm. He's out of Norway and he does like a lot of men's mental health stuff, etc. Yeah. So I left a comment and he actually responded. Like, cool, and it's kind of neat when that happens, right? Yeah. You feel good about that.
Yeah, so. We fangirl all the time.
We do.
Cool.
All right.
Okay. So, well, happy 2025, bitches.
Yeah. Are you ready to rock? We are, and we're back next week with your next favorite episode. Until then, I'm Jason.
I'm Jolene.
Happy New Year and all that.
Happy New Year.